You're listening to the Femtrepreneur Show, and this is episode 11. In this episode of the Femtrepreneur Show, we're chatting with Donnie and Abby Lawson of Just a Girl and Her blog. They're also Launcher Signature Course students, and we're talking all about how they built up their blog into a full-time business with both ebooks and courses. Hey guys, it's Mariah.
And I'm Megan Mins, and we are so excited for you to hear this interview. Abby Lawson is the girl behind Just a Girl and Her blog, where she strives to create a beautiful, thriving home, life, and business, and she helps others do the same. She started her blog on a whim without any, big picture aspirations, but her and her husband, Donnie, were quickly able to turn the hobby blog into a full-fledged family business that they now run together. When they're not busy blogging, they love working on DIY projects, running on the local trails, and checking out every playground known to Pittsburgh with their two sons, Connor and Caleb. We can't wait for you to hear all the goodness, so let's dig in.
So, hello, Abby and Donnie. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. And we are super excited to have you here and to ask you a million questions about your ebooks and your courses and how you run a business that sells both. But tell us a little bit about who you guys are and what you do in your business.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having us. We're excited to be here. So I started Just a Girl and Her blog, which is our main blog, in January of 2013, just because I was like a stay-at-home mom and I was looking for a project and for something to do. I didn't really do it to make money or to start a business. I just wanted something to do. But quickly, I kind of got hooked and caught the blogging bug and decided to learn, more and more about blogging and how to do it well. And so as I was doing this, Donnie had always been kind of my tech person, and he had always been interested in the entrepreneurial side of things. So he started, getting interested too, and eventually we started doing it together and are able to do it full time. So we run Just a Girl and Her blog, which is mainly about organization and home decor, but we also have kind of a transparent business, and we share our income reports and try to help other people who want to make blogging kind of their full-time gig try to get there as well. So kind of multifaceted, but
we were actually kind of forced into doing this full-time together. Was it January of 2015? I actually was laid off from my corporate job. So we had planned in December of 2015, we would work really hard so that I could quit my job and we could work together. But that happened about 11 months early. We weren't sure if it would work, but fortunately it.
I feel like even though that is stressful and not ideal, it forces you and a lot of other people have that same kind of thing where I'm glad that ultimately that's how it happened. Otherwise, you probably would have put it off for another 11 months. And think about how awesome it is that you could do it so much sooner.
Yeah, it's nice that someone else kind of made that decision for you. I mean, it's scary, but I think long term, it was good.
Wow, that's intense. So and people know this, I know that I've told you guys this before, your ebook, Building a Framework was the first product I ever bought. Back when I was only running Comic Camper, Femtrepreneur wasn't even an idea yet. It was just not even a thing. And I was like, I have to start taking Comic Camper more seriously. I want to turn it into a business. Your ebook was the first thing I bought when I was getting into okay, I need to learn about actually running this blog in a real way. So you guys have inspired me so much. I think it's so cool that years and years later now we get to talk and we've done different collaborations together, and it's just
now
awesome.
We've taken some of your courses too now.
Yeah,
so
you guys are Launcher Signature Course students, and I'm a student of yours. It's great. And so you guys went full time in January 2015. Okay, so just about 18, or I guess almost more than a year and a half ago now. Wow, that's intense. All right, so what did you guys do before that? Did you guys say what you were doing before, and was the transition? Tell us a little bit about did you already have revenue coming in when you made that transition? Obviously, it was kind of forced, but did you already have, what did your business look like that allowed you to do that?
Sure. So I'm an English teacher kind of by trade, but hadn't done that for a while. I mean, we had our kids and I kind of did part-time work for a little bit when we had the kids, but then I was, staying at home with them. Donnie was in the oil and gas industry as a landman, and so that industry kind of tanked, and therefore layoffs happened. So before we started doing this full time, we had already launched Building a Framework. So Building a Framework, which is our first ebook that taught people how to blog, launched in June of 2014. So we had that product for about 6 months before we kind of got thrown into this thing full time. So that was bringing in some revenue. I was doing sponsored posts here and there that brought in a little bit. I had a little bit from ads and some from affiliate sales. So the combination of those things made up a decent income. It wasn't like we're ready for Donnie to quit his job type income, but so we were making an income from it. And then it was just amazing to me. I think, like, if you look at our income reports, it really, like, our income more than doubled that month that he got laid off, just like double the manpower and double, the time that we were able to put into it really helped us grow our business faster. And we really are better at it together.
What were some of the things that you did, like, if you, with this like new time, because I think a lot of times people are in that position where they're doing their blog for part-time and then they have a full-time job and they're not sure, like, at what point, if you put in twice the work, would you be able to double your output? And you guys were able to double your output. So what were some of the things that were like really working that you were like, if we double down on this, this is what's going to like double our income? Because that's a huge leap, is to double your income in a month.
No, I think that's about the time we won this little challenge with Fizzle, like Corbett and Chase and those guys, for like getting referrals. So we won like a little coaching session with Corbett and Chase, and they really encouraged us, I think, to take email more seriously. We had been doing a really good job getting email subscribers. So at that point we had a decent list, but we hadn't really used it. And so I think that was kind of the first thing we did, is we started teaching through email course, email series, automation sequences, and we just started creating little funnels for our product, and then also some affiliate income potential. So I think we just started taking email more seriously and started segmenting the list and that type of thing. And it made a huge difference. We
also launched our second product that month too. So I think it was a combination of those two things.
Sure.
We had been thinking about doing a collection of printables for a while. And when we kind of got into that coaching with the Fizzle guys, I said, I'm just going to do it. So in like 3 weeks, we created from scratch and launched this product and got it out there. And so that happened, and then we set up email the right way, and all of that stuff kind of created this like perfect storm and set us kind of up to the next level that we needed to be at in order to survive, and it happened at the perfect time. So it all worked out.
That's really cool. So we're talking now more than a year later. What does your income streams look like right now? Because you guys are really unique in that you have both ebooks and courses, and you have your printables. And it's kind of interesting to know, like, what is the breakdown percentage-wise? Is it 50-50? Like, where does your income come from? And of course, you guys do income reports, so people can also go and really dig into them.
Yeah, I mean, it's we killed the ad revenue segment in July, so no more ads. But that was a really small percentage anyways. I mean, we really downplayed the type of ads that we had, so it wasn't super important. But I would say we're about 50% affiliate income, partnership income, and then about 50% income from our digital products. We have 5 different things. Most of them are lower priced ebooks. Maybe there's some video lessons that go along with the ebooks, but 5 digital products.
What are the 5 digital products? Just so that people can get a sense of like that, because you guys have a variety of different things.
Yeah, there's all sorts of things. There's framework, obviously. We relaunched that, so there's like the framework version 2 with the 3 different packages. Then we have Simplify,
that's the collection of organizational printables.
And then the Intentional Life Planner, which is another printable planner. And then we have the paperless home, which is there's an ebook version, and then there's like an ebook plus video tutorials version. We have that. And then we have Book Boss, how to write and launch a profitable ebook in 90 days. So yeah, I think that's five.
That's cool. And that's cool that you guys have like these different products that bridge kind of, like you said, like home organization, home decor, and the blogging and marketing, running an online blog business. You kind of bridge both, which is cool. I mean, like, I feel like a lot of times people are like, I don't know how to make it all work together. Like, I have two different kind of passions or interests and I don't know how to do it, but you guys have done it seamlessly.
I mean, it's been a tension, but
yeah, we always do feel like there's kind of like, we're like home bloggers, but we also teach blogging. But I think since we've been doing both for so long, like we started teaching blogging in, early 2014, that has just become like what our blog is. And so we kind of attract sort of the motivated mom, motivated homemaker type person who is interested both in like creating a beautiful home and is wanting to share it maybe like in the form of a blog. So that has kind of, it has been definitely a tension because we kind of have two niches, but at the same time, that's kind of been what our blog has become and who we are and kind of why we're different from other people, I guess.
And I guess we're just like your readers are interested in a lot of different things. So if they're interested in decorating and home decor, there's a good chance they're interested in organizing as well. They may be interested in going paperless if they're interested in organizing. And then a certain segment of those people, they're reading your blog, they're probably reading other blogs. They may be interested in starting one themselves. So it kind of works. I mean, it's kind of scattered, but I think it still makes.
It doesn't feel scattered. I mean, that's kind of like what I think is like, I think there are people that really struggle with it, but for you guys, it feels cohesive. And I think the fact that you've identified that the motivated mom is your audience and she has these different interests. She's not just wants to stay at home and necessarily decorate and organize. She also wants to share that progress on a blog. And she also feels motivated to like make a side income. And she's clearly like taking on these responsibilities for herself. And I think that's cool that you've identified like, this is the same ideal customer. And these are all the potential things that she might need.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree.
So let's talk about Book Boss because I'm obsessed with it and I think it's an awesome course. And let's talk about like, I really want to get into the sort of your first launch of Book Boss, and we're nosy and our listeners are nosy. So I want to know all like details such as like how many people had opted in for your pre-launch list and what was your launch like and how many enrollments did you get and all that kind of detailed stuff if you're happy to share it, and just kind of like go through that first launch experience for your sort of signature course like that.
Sure. Well, Book Boss was interesting because it was the first time, after taking Launch Your Signature course, it was the first time we really employed webinars as part of our strategy. And so it kind of felt like a bigger deal. And we had like a very distinctive, like pre-launch, launch, like post-launch type thing more than we ever had before with any of our other products. So even though we had launched, lots of ebooks before, this kind of felt like a bigger deal. And so I kind of felt like a lot more went into it. So that was kind of exciting. So we
started with the email first.
Yeah, we started with email, got our lead magnet up and running. And
was that just like was it like a PDF or was it like an email course, or like what was the lead magnet that people could opt in for?
Yeah, it's an email course that talks about building your launch list. So basically it's preparing people for the launch of their ebook. If you want to have a successful ebook launch, you need to start, before you do anything else, start building that interest through building a launch list. So it kind of teaches people those principles. And so we started advertising for that like before we had even started doing any of the course stuff. And I think we end up with a few. We have a big list right now. It's like 80,000, but not all of those people are obviously interested in writing and launching an ebook. But during that pre-launch phase, I think we got 3,000 or 4,000 in that lead magnet that would eventually lead people to the launch of the course.
So then, like, I remember, Donnie, you tweeting me and Megan maybe like while you guys were planning your launch, you said, we've never launched like this before. I wondered, like, I'm excited to see how it goes. How was this so different from launching an ebook? Like, how, besides the webinars, was it the time frame? Like, had you created pre-launch lists for your ebooks before?
We had. This was a little more daunting in that it was going to be a higher price product than we have ever done before. So, like, generally we do lower price products mostly because, like, I talk about like decorating on a budget, and my audience is a lot of stay-at-home moms. When I was a stay-at-home mom, we were living on one income. We were limited in the extra funds we have, so we tried to cater to that. So this was it was a little nerve-wracking because it was going to be the highest price product we ever put out, but at the same time it was exciting because we knew that if people follow the steps and did exactly what we taught them in BookBoss, and they would make their investment back, so many times over. So that was exciting. And then I think this time when we did BookBoss, we used that sense of urgency kind of more than we ever had before because of, the price again. We did a pre-sale period with like the lowest price, and then we went into the launch period where the price went up $50, but it was still like, this is still our special launch price. And then we finally, went up to the normal price. But I think that too kind of taught us a lot, and we've since launched one of our smaller products again. We used the urgency thing more and saw great results with that. And so that, I think, was a big difference and something that I don't think we've had fully taken advantage of really before the launch of BookBoss as much as we could have.
And we spent so much more time with BookBoss in the pre-launch and building interest and getting people to our lead magnet. We did Periscope series. That's also something that I've seen you do. I think we probably learned that from you about ebook writing and launching. So that was all before anyone could even buy anything. We're teaching that. We did webinar. Did we do any webinars before people could make a purchase? They could
during pre-launch. They could pre-buy it.
Yeah, before. Yeah, we had the first module available, and but we were still a few weeks away from the actual launch, and we did just internal webinars, just Abby and I on the webinar to our existing audience, and took pre-orders that way, and so we just spent a lot more time kind of building that excitement before the launch, whereas before with the ebooks we would do that a little bit, but then it was all focused on after the launch. So it's different strategy for sure. And with a higher priced product, we felt like we needed to do more video promotion with the Periscope, with the webinars. It's not as quick of a decision to make
also the fact that this product isn't for everybody. Like a lot of our products, you can like stumble upon them and you're like, oh, I can do that. But with BookBoss, really, we recommend you kind of have an audience or have started your blog already and then kind of do BookBoss after that. So it was like a more narrow focus of, an audience that it could be applicable to. So we had to kind of gather those types of people.
It's kind of like for the Building a Framework readers, like those customers are primed and ready to do BookBoss, but it's almost like this is step one and BookBoss is like step two.
Exactly.
No, that's exactly it. And there's a huge correlation for the people that did Building a Framework and successfully completed that and had been blogging for a while and was building your audience. Those were the BookBoss customers. That's how people said, okay, like let me take my audience and let me turn this into an actual business by creating my first digital product, which happens to be an ebook. And so, yeah, it is kind of like a step one and then step two, which was very helpful.
I like what you guys said about the urgency and the price increases. I feel like besides those being incredible tools for like getting people to actually kind of get off the fence and like creating sort of these like mini deadlines within your launch, I feel like when you're struggling with your first higher priced product, which is something that I've struggled with a lot. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe like this next course is like more than $100, or like this is going to be more than $500. Like, it's every time you kind of break to that next level of like charging for a certain product, it's really scary. And I found that in the process of doing 2 or 3 price increases over the course of a pre-launch and a launch, it's like, it's mentally easier to go step by step, like these little kind of like steps up, rather than just being like, here guys, here's my next course, is this like much different price thing than you're used to, but instead kind of using those price increases to feel more and more confident in yourself. Because I mean, if you guys feel comfortable, how many enrollments did you get in the pre-sale period versus overall? Because to me, when I make a couple of pre-sales at that price point, I then feel the confidence to like, okay, this price increase is coming and I feel good about it because people bought at that lower price. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. I think we definitely got the most enrollments in that pre-sale period when the price was lowest, because our audience was primed and they were ready. So when it came out, you know, they were the early adopters and they got rewarded for that. I feel like we got maybe 250 in the pre-sale period, and then throughout the launch got up to 400. So, but like
that's amazing.
Pre-sale period was definitely like the heaviest with sales.
Yeah. We priced it at $97 during the pre-sale, had a couple hundred pre-sales, and then we bumped it up to $147 during the launch period, maybe had another 100 there. And then now it's like at the normal pricing of $197, we've maybe had another 100 sales. So definitely the pre-launch period, that like buzz building period where people just had access to that foundation module, is just enough to like whet their appetite, and they couldn't wait till like the course was actually live to start going through it. But that pre-launch was definitely very important. How many students do we have now in Book Boss?
We're about 500, I think.
That's amazing. That actually brings up 2 questions for me, because the first one is the fact that you said people were excited for when the rest of the course would be released. No one was angry. And I feel like people who haven't launched before have that like this kind of fear of like, well, if there's only an intro module, people are going to be so mad. With like, people are so afraid of pre-selling, but it seemed like people were just like, this is awesome and I can't wait for more.
Right. And I mean, I think it's all about how you set the expectations as well. We were very clear and said, you know, you buy it now and only this intro module is available and the rest will be available on this date. And actually, I went to a blogging conference and Donnie came with me to just hang out. And while I'm at the blogging conference, it's like a couple days before the course was supposed to launch, and he is working and releasing the course like little by little. So we actually released it to the people who pre-bought it, like, I don't know, like 5 days early or something. So we kind of felt like we were able to like under promise and over deliver, and they got it early and they weren't even expecting to get it till later. So yeah, nobody was mad and they were excited, and you know, excited to have it early even.
That's awesome. So then my second question is, what is it like running a course with 500 students for your first like big course like this? Because I know for me, when I launched, you know, your first 1K and we got hundreds of students, I was starting to feel stressed about it. That's why I hired Megan, because I was like, I need help. You guys are 2 people, so that's really good. But like, what is it like to run a course with 500 students? That is a lot of people.
Yeah, well, I mean, there definitely have been growing pains. So we had already had, I think there have been about 8,000 people that have gone through building a framework. And we had a Facebook group for that. So we kind of knew what we were getting ourselves into with the group. And for a while, I mean, especially before Donnie was able to work with me full time, like I was drowning and doing a terrible job at keeping up with everything because there was just one of me. Then he came on, and we also have my sister who is our assistant. And now I feel like we're finally getting into our flow, and we have a system with service requests and email and, you know, letting people into Facebook groups. It definitely takes all 3 of us to do it and make it happen, you know, well and efficiently. But that definitely, I mean, there's huge difference both in our efficiency and in my stress level since we kind of figured out a system for, you know, both email and those Facebook groups that kind of we each have our own roles, and then everything runs smoothly.
And I think it's easier too because I'm not sure what number Abby said, but yeah, we 500 Book Boss students, but they're people that don't have those really basic tech questions that can be exhausting because they can handle that stuff. But framework, yeah, over the past couple of years, since 2014, we've had 9,000 people buy Building a Framework.
Wow.
And so, and those are people just starting out. So that, I mean, the ongoing maintenance for that is, 10 times more than Book Boss.
And it's been easy.
Yeah, it's been easy. People are in the Facebook group sharing their launches and talking about their strategies and everything. To me, it's been pretty easy. It's in Teachable, which has worked really well for us. So it's been great.
That's awesome. So this is something that I feel like we need to learn from you guys. How did you make sure that you were only attracting, was it language on the sales page? Was it in the emails? How did you make sure that only people bought Book Boss that were ready? I feel like one of the things that we struggle with is not that you can't take one of our courses as a beginner, especially your first 1K. It's for beginners, but Launch Your Signature course, we definitely get a lot of people who join and they don't have a website, they don't have anything set up yet. How did you kind of make it? I feel like I try to make it clear, but maybe I'm missing something. How did you guys get that across that this isn't for everyone?
That's tricky. That's definitely been a struggle, and it has for sure hurt our sales. I mean, I feel like a lot of our webinars, it's about, kind of people are ruling themselves out. It's okay, this is for if you have an existing audience. Okay, I'm out. This is not about launching in the Kindle store. Not that that's a bad strategy. It's just not what we're teaching. And so they were ruling themselves out there. But the good thing is, as those people are ruling themselves out, we had a backup product.
We have framework to point them to.
That's kind of like a downsell. Brittany would be in the chat for webinars and she would say, it's probably not a good fit for you in that situation, or in an email, you should really start here instead. And so I think Book Boss and the promotion of that has really increased our sales of Building a Framework. But at the same time, it's tough to find enough people that are qualified, every week to start with Book Boss that are ready for that.
And as far as making it clear, we have, I think it's in the FAQ section on our sales page, that is one of the FAQs. I don't even have a blog yet. Is this course for me? And so in there, we're able to say, we recommend you start with Building a Framework first. And once you've made your way through that, then you'll probably be ready for Book Boss. We don't want to, sell courses just to sell them. We want to be right for people. So we do kind of try to guide people through that progression of doing, the framework first and then adding Book Boss on top of it.
I like that idea.
Yeah, I like that a lot too. And you guys have the perfect, like you said, it's the perfect downsell. It's the perfect alternative. It's not super expensive. So it's hey, why don't you start with this? It's probably more in line with what you can, what is a good investment for you just starting out, and it's going to help you get there. And what you guys are doing is creating these this perfect, product suite where you're creating all these Book Boss customers. Even by turning them away at the webinar, you're still creating that customer for 6 months from then.
I mean, and even Abby just did a webinar for someone else's audience a couple weeks ago. And so people got the follow-up series about this is for Book Boss, about Book Boss. And then about 5 days after that, in Autopilot, I have it set up to check, are they a Book Boss customer? No. Are they a framework customer? No. Send them this downsell email that says, hey, I know you weren't interested in Book Boss. It wasn't a good fit for you. But this here is the first step. And then so we'll use the affiliate link for whoever's audience we did the webinar for. So it's kind of a a downsell that really works well for us.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So what do you guys feel was the best, of all the different marketing strategies that you guys used to launch Book Boss, what were some of the best strategies that you feel had the best ROI for the time you put in? Because a lot of our listeners and a lot of our students are kind of well, if I can only do 2 or 3 main strategies, what should I stick with to get the most bang for my buck? What do you guys feel worked the best?
Well, I think webinars, particularly during the launch period, were especially effective for us. I think, I mean, that's something we had never done before, but the ability to like get in front of people and just kind of see them face to face. Well, they're seeing your face, you're not seeing their face, but they can ask questions in real time, and you can kind of show that like, hey, this isn't just me like faking it. Like, I know what I'm talking about. I've done this so many times before, and I can help you do it too. I mean, I think that was incredibly effective, because I know you talk about like in Webinar Rockstar, not only are you selling your course, but you are growing your email list when you're doing webinars. And like, there's just so many, it just hits so many different segments of what we're trying to do. So that was, you know, definitely effective. And then just nailing down, I think, our email series, after, whether it's follow-up from webinars or getting people excited or telling our story, because, you know, just letting people get to know us and seeing that it is possible. Like, we have lots of people that come to us and are just say like, I never thought that, you know, what you guys have done is possible, and now I see it is, and, you know, I'm excited to do that. So I think webinars, knocking out our email series, and making, you know, sharing our story through that and making it effective. Those were the things that helped the most.
And it was really encouraging to me. And this is something that I think Abby and I need to do more, not only webinars, but kind of internal webinars to our existing audience. I mean, the conversion rate on those is just like, I mean, it's just so much more. I mean, you know, doing a webinar for someone else's audience is a great way to build a list, but I mean, it was just so encouraging to see people who had been part of our audience for a long time in the webinar making a purchase. And so I think a lot of people are always looking to go outside of their existing audience for webinars, but maybe it's a third webinar for your existing audience where they, you know, finally were able to watch it live and make a purchase. So that worked really well for us.
I mean, they're your warmest audience. You know what I mean? Like, they're already so many people, I feel like, don't necessarily realize. They think like, well, I sent out an email or I mentioned the sales page. Whoever would have wanted to buy has already bought. And even, and you guys are the people who turned us on to ConvertKit. You guys know Nathan Barry. We did the first webinar that they had ever done to sell ConvertKit to our audience. And he was, after we got off like live, he was like, I had no idea how many people were just kind of sitting on the fence, and we never had given them a reason to get off of it. And like, up until this webinar, it was just like, they could have sat on the fence forever and there would have been no reason to really do that. And I think that's so true with webinars to your own audiences. You might be underestimating how many people are on your email list, they read your blog, they're fans, but unless you give them like some kind of nudge to like, if you buy live on this webinar, you get this extra bonus, then a lot of people are going to sit on the fence.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's really good point. No, I agree.
So what do you guys would say would be your like best advice for someone who wants to launch their first course, kind of in your position, you know, a couple months ago? What would you say to someone as kind of your number one piece of advice for them?
I would say it's so important to get organized. I think, like, if you're trying to fly by the seat of your pants, like, not only will you not end up doing everything you intended to do, but it will just take a lot longer. So we always sit down, like, at the very beginning when we decide what course we're going to create or what ebook we're going to launch, and set, you know, a firm launch date that we're shooting for. And then we kind of work backwards from there. We have a whole launch calendar with dates of like when we're going to send our emails and when we're going to do posts and when we're going to do, you know, a Facebook Live series, and when, you know, everything is on that launch calendar. And even if we don't hit every single thing, which, you know, happens, we have it organized and laid out. We know everything we need to do. We know what we're each responsible for and what Brittany's responsible for, from the very beginning of the whole thing. And that kind of carries us through. We can just then go, like, instead of saying, well, what do I do next and what needs to happen? We can just go down the list, keep working on the next thing and check everything off. And before you know it, we're at launch day and, you know, everything has been set in motion. And I feel like when we're organized like that, not only does the launch go off well, but the sales afterwards kind of flow and continue. We were just laughing because this summer, we're moving and it has been crazy. We don't have our stuff. We're home bloggers and we don't have a house. So like it's been nuts, but because of all these systems, because we're organized and we had all these systems that we put in place, our business has kept going. And we actually had like our second highest month ever last month on autopilot, like without.
Like we didn't even work that month.
Right. Being organized and having those systems in place, I think is absolutely the best thing you can do for yourself. It's just huge.
You guys should come teach a webinar to my audience about getting organized for the launch, because it's something that like we teach, I talk about it in Launch Your Signature course, like how to set up your calendars and your notebooks and like how to kind of get organized, but I'm naturally not organized. You literally like are the organization people. So I feel like you guys would be like super organized about like how to kind of like prepare for the launch. And I do think that's so important. So many people want to like get on to the more exciting stuff. They don't take the time to really like get everything mapped out before they dive into the action.
Yeah, and also big mistake that we found, people would join Book Boss and they would be, we would teach them, set a launch date, get organized, do that planning. Well, they would set a launch date like 9 months like into the future. And that like doesn't help anything. And then there would be other people that would be overly ambitious and they would be like, next Tuesday, I'm going to launch my ebook.
And so see that same thing. It's like,
yeah, like when Abby and I, like when we're always like, we would be, at Starbucks, the kids would be in school, we would be like brainstorming for the next product. And then whenever we get to that point where it's like, what we have to do, like we have to set a launch date. It's like kind of scary, like, because you don't want to set it too far off in the distance, but you don't want it to be too soon. And like whenever we do that, like I just get like kind of nervous. Like excited,
but we've never had to push back a launch.
We've never, because
we've always done it, because we've always had a firm date and stuck with it.
Yeah, so I think like setting that launch date that's like that puts a little pressure on yourself is good, but is still realistic.
We have that same kind of issue with like people are like, okay, I'll launch in a year, and it's like that's no, that doesn't really count. Or like, oh, I'm going to launch, like, how can I, I need to make money next week for rent. Like, can I pre-sell my course like, today? And it's like, whoa, like that's a little too soon. But like, how long did you guys set your launch date out for Book Boss when you started with the idea?
We generally 90 days has kind of become our sweet spot, and that's what we shoot for. Just because, we've done it in 3 weeks. And it was insane. And we've also, kind of said, we'll do that down the road. And we just end up putting it off and doing everything in the last, 90 days anyway. So we have found that has kind of become our sweet spot. And that's what we shoot for whenever we try to do a product. And it will be slightly different there are 2 of us and we have an assistant. But if you're organized and you plan it out and, mark on your calendar when you're going to do the thing, it's totally possible.
Yeah, I like that a lot. How do you guys decide what topics become ebooks and what topics become courses? That's something I've been thinking about too, because I want to write an ebook. I'm excited to like get into that. Like I've never launched an ebook before. I feel like it could be a really good, like you guys obviously have had so much success with Framework where it's like, what you guys are telling me about like this intro product that gets people prepared, that's what's missing in my sort of world. I feel like that's such a great idea, but how do you decide like what goes in an ebook versus a course, or like what's a good topic for a book versus a course? Yeah,
that's a tough question. I will say that I think ebooks are very underrated. I think depending on the depth of the material, you could kind of go either way with an ebook or course. I'm thinking of the Paperless Home. It's we sell the ebook for $18. The ebook plus it's like 11 screencast tutorials, pretty simple for like $30 some. we try and look at the audience. If it's a course, we're gonna price it higher. So we need to have kind of the right audience for that. I would say for us, kind of the first step is maybe an ebook, and then depending on how well that does, it eventually could become a course. I mean, I just think ebooks sell a lot easier. I mean, I'll buy an ebook on Pinterest ads for like $30, and I'll read it in like a half an hour, and I'm happy. I got a good understanding. I didn't think twice about that. And then if I learned a lot, and if I was impressed, when that same person has a course on Pinterest ads 12 months from now, I'm going to buy their course too. I don't know if that really answered the question.
Well, I think ebooks they're a good stepping stone, both for the author, because they're so easy. If you can save a document as a PDF, you can write an ebook. And they're a good stepping stone for your audience because they're generally lower price. They can get through it in a short amount of time, and still feel like they came away with a win. So both for if you've never done a product before and you've never asked your audience to buy anything from you before, ebooks are kind of a good way to dip your toes in the water. And then, at least for us, we built upon that. Once people kind of got used to seeing us do products, then, we took framework to the next level and added videos, and it's now, a course too. And we put out Book Boss, which is fully a course and not an ebook at all, because our audience was already primed for that. That's how we've kind of used them.
Yeah, I think every subject matter could be a course, even with the Planner and Simplify about organizing, that could become a course. For us, it's just a matter of time and where we want to put the focus. But yeah, I mean, I think writing an ebook and engaging interest that way, it's just a much smaller commitment. You're kind of building up an audience for an eventual course. That's kind of how we look at it.
That right there is the gold.
Yeah, well, that's something like Mariah's talked about in previous podcasts and in almost every medium that we have, is just how you should do. We believe in your first course being like a minimum viable, what's the easiest, lowest hanging fruit that you can get to just get going and start making that kind of money. And I think that this is an iteration of that. If you're thinking of this low hanging fruit course idea, but the logistics of maybe creating a video course or an email course are still too daunting, but you could whip it out in your head and make an ebook from it much easier, then I feel like that's an amazing first step. And then you'll get follow-up questions that you can then incorporate into a course later. And I don't know, I love the idea of that being almost step 0 or step 1, is kind of starting there and validating it through that medium and then growing it beyond that.
Yeah. And if the different funnels and email sequences are set up correctly, it's just a whole lot easier to sell ebooks on a continual basis than it is a higher price course. I mean, it takes a lot more face time and effort and commitment to get those students for a more expensive course.
It's an easier evergreen offer. Courses are hard to, it's hard to have an evergreen course. It's a constant kind of, like you said, to sell $1,000 course on evergreen is a lot of webinars and a lot of really, intense funnels and stuff like that. I feel like with an ebook, it's more of an evergreen thing, and then maybe your course open and closes. I like that idea. I like that a lot. Yeah, I think I struggle. I personally tried, I even have the text, I wrote this 200-page ebook, and I feel like I struggled to finish it for some reason in a way that I didn't. In a way that a course, I was okay, I need to make one module per week while it's coming out. And I was really struggling with I need to have the entire book done before it launches. And that was one of my blocks. And I don't know if you guys probably have struggled with that and have advice for people who maybe are in that same spot. But I know for me, it was oh my gosh, it has to be perfect before I launch. Whereas with a course, I feel like I'm like, okay, I can like kind of make this up as we go because like I have an outline, but I can like make it better as we go. So.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I was like, writing has been my thing. Like, I was an English teacher. So, like, writing has been my thing. Like, that's the medium I'm most comfortable in, which is probably also why we started with ebooks. But I think with anything, whether you're doing an ebook or you're doing a course, it comes down to putting that consistent time on the calendar and just doing it. Like, the first time we launched Framework, Donnie was still, working his corporate job, and I was already using my kids' nap times and after they went to bed to like do my blog. So I didn't have all this extra time. So we decided that every morning from 6 to 7 was going to be my ebook writing time. And if the boys needed something during that time, they knew to go to Donnie, and he was helping them get ready as he was getting ready for work and everything. And I literally wrote Building a Framework like 1 hour at a time every morning, just because I was consistent with it. And I feel like everybody feels like, oh, I need this big chunk of time to write an ebook or make a course. But really, if you just can block off smaller chunks and are really consistent, I mean, it's totally possible to knock it out. You just have to, want it. So as far as completing something and, having it ready to go in the time frame that you want, like that has been, it's not mind-blowing, it's not tricky, it's not special. It's just showing up,
consistency.
every day.
Yeah, I love that. That's such a good reminder, though. I think it's so easy to feel like I need 3 hours to achieve X, Y, and Z, when if you could really just do a true focused hour instead every day, that would be a lot better.
That's what Abby is great at. Like, I feel like before and this is not a good thing, but I feel like before I do any creative work, I have to like have everything around me all like taken care of, like all those phone calls I need to make done. Like Abby can be like in the middle of like a tornado and just like focus, like ignore everything and like get it done, which I think is rare. But I mean, we kind of hold each other. She holds me accountable when I say I'm going to do something.
I love that. I have a random ebook question I'd love your expertise on. Do you guys have, like Mariah mentioned this really long ebook she was writing. Do you guys have kind of like a typical page length, or a range of like, oh, an ebook should probably be less than this, or like definitely more than 10 pages? I don't know. Like, do you guys have any advice on length of an ebook?
We usually say, I think we say, you're going to want it to be at least 10,000 words, because like I'm sure like you guys have written blog posts that are.
I was going to say most of my blog posts are 10,000 words.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Like I wrote it. Well, the one I wrote in Who and Pay for this was like 7,000 words. So yeah, at least 10,000 words, just so they feel like they're getting some like some substance there. But after that, it's as like concise as possible, basically. Like I get turned off like if I buy an ebook and there's just too much. Like I want to pay $20 or $30 and get something really specific, really helpful, and be able to get through it in like an hour. So that's kind of what we recommend.
We always say people are looking for like that shortcut to an outcome. So you're not helping anybody by putting fluff in there just to make it like, oh, I need 200 pages. So as concise as you can make it while still being clear and covering all your bases, I think is the answer.
And I think that's the same with like courses too. People get obsessed with like how many videos makes it valuable. And like, it's not about how many videos. And the same thing, it's not a race to like the most amount of modules or the most amount of chapters or the most pages. It's about how can you be as concise as possible to get someone, the sort of like result that they're after, but not even necessarily like the most advanced result, just the first version of it.
Yeah, the first step. And one of the things that I like about ebooks, and I don't consider this fluff, but like as opposed to a blog post, it gives like Abby a chance to like tell a more complete story. So like I've read some really good books, like even Ask by Ryan Levesque. I'm
in the middle of that one now.
It's super interesting. The first half is his story. And so, but I enjoy that. Like I liked reading that. And then kind of the second part is like the application part, where I feel like just in a long blog post, it's harder
to cut to the chase.
Yeah, you have to cut to the chase a little bit more. But I don't consider that story lead up part to be fluff. I think that's an important part of it.
And he even says, like, part 1 is my life story. If you don't want to read that, just skip over to part 2. It's totally fine. If you think that it would be valuable to know how I came up with these ideas and like all the background that led me here, go ahead and read it. And I think that's like such a good approach, is like people want the story. I like the part about the story. So
yeah, and he said that, and I'm guessing like 90% of the people probably read the story part, which is exactly what I did.
So we're about to wrap this up, but I have 3 more questions for you guys. What is one thing? Obviously, you guys are killing it. Like, anyone who's listening, go take a look at their income reports, because they're clearly killing it right now. But what is one thing that we might not see on the outside that you guys are struggling with growing this company, even just having so much success so fast? Like, what are some of the things that you guys are struggling with right now?
Pretty much everything.
All the time, everything, every day.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, this summer has just felt like just total and utter like chaos. Like, we like to be organized. We like systems. We like routines. And this summer we have not had any of that because we're in between houses and our kids are home from school. So that makes it a little crazier. So that, in itself was a struggle. That just is kind of a phase, that is going to be over soon. But I would say as we grow and as, the blog gets bigger, with that comes a lot more opportunities, which is awesome. And we love that. But it also kind of complicates the decisions of, how we're going to spend our time. Because you want to say yes to everything that's good, like lots of good opportunities, come our way. And you want to be able to say yes. I hate saying no. Like, part of our email system and why that works so well is because Donnie and Brittany take care of all the no emails, because I cannot write them. It pains me. So I think with that, at the beginning, it was easier because it's just we'll just say yes, and because we want to grow and go. But now that we've grown, we have to be choosier about what we're doing with our time and what we choose to pursue. And it's not always a black and white, obvious answer. So I think that is always kind of a tension and a struggle for us, is what are we going to say yes to? What are we going to focus on? And what do we want our business to look like? Always kind of coming back to, who our audience is and what would serve them best. But I don't know. I think that it's a struggle for me because I like to say yes.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Absolutely. What do you guys think is going to be sort of the next big trend in online courses or online business? Do you guys have any predictions for the future? This is my favorite question of every interview.
Donnie is he's the Buddha of trends. He knows what would be popular. Before, he was one of the first people to sign up for ConvertKit, and now it's
I know, that's how I found out about it a year before I started using it from you guys.
So he's whatever he says, listen up, because I don't ever know anything, but he's really good at this. Go ahead, take it away, Don.
None of that is true. I think I watch my kids and how they interact. We have a 7 and a 5-year-old. I watch how they interact with their media, and it's all video, it's all short video, and it's they're not, I don't know. I think everything is moving more towards video, towards audio, that type of media. I think that's a big trend. That's pretty obvious. I think everyone knows that, you guys have a podcast. And I also think that a lot of people sense that, digital products is becoming more competitive because more people have them out there. But I still think that the potential market for online courses, for ebooks, is just going to keep growing because there's going to be so many more people that become customers, where a few years ago they would never consider buying something like that, but now they will.
You talked about marketing automation.
Yeah, maybe marketing automation. I think, we're starting to take a look at like what people are doing on our website, different actions they're taking, and tailoring messages specifically to them, putting them in different categories and series based on some of the actions that they're taking on the website. I mean, I think if someone has a website that gets a decent amount of traffic, there's a lot of potential there to kind of think through like a customer journey for someone, something that makes sense like within your suite of products, and then kind of guide them down that path the best way, instead of like pushing them right towards the end, kind of start them at the beginning and move them that way. That's a hard thing to do, but that's one of the things we're starting to think about.
I like that. I like that a lot. So what are you guys launching next? What is the next thing we should look out for from you guys?
Well, I think our next big project is going to be kind of taking what we have with building a framework and making it better. The last time we launched it was in June of 2015, so it's time to kind of go back to the drawing board, update it a little bit. Things have, changed some since that time. And I mean, that is kind of our flagship product. And so it's one that we always need to give a lot of attention to and make even better. So that's kind of our next project, is kind of revamping that and making it, the best that it can be.
That's awesome. I love that. I think that's us too, is like, focus on what we have, like not like focus on making what we have better and better, and not a new thing, which I think when you've been doing this a couple years, like you guys have, you realize more and more that the answer isn't more and more products or more and more things. It's like, how can we just do better with what we already made? So last question for you guys. Where can our listeners find you? I know you guys have a awesome free course for them. So tell us where they can find that and where they can follow you and find you online.
Yeah, so if you are interested, if you're planning on doing a launch sometime soon, we think kind of the most important part of that is building an email list of people who are excited about it. So we have a free course that teaches you how to do that. And you can go to justagirlandherblog.com/thefemshow to get signed up for that free course called Build Your Launch List. And then you can just find us at justagirlandherblog.com, and all of our social media information is there. We love Instagram and Facebook and Pinterest and all those fun things. So
that's awesome. Guys, go check out this free course, because whether you're going to launch an ebook or launch a course, you do need to build up that pre-launch list. And obviously, Abby and Donnie are like the best at that, because they have a huge list, far larger than ours. So definitely go check that out. All right, guys. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for answering all of my millions of questions.
That was great. Thank you so much
for having us.
Go to thefemshow.com/11 for the show notes to this episode, and to find the links to all the resources we mentioned, including how to get Abby and Donnie's free email course, Build Your Launch List.
And if you like this episode, please subscribe to the Femtrepreneur Show on iTunes and leave a rating and a review. It might seem small, but the reviews make a big impact, and they help us get more amazing guests for you and keep bringing you the best strategies and tools for free each and every week. So don't forget to go to thefemshow.com. If you have questions that you want us to answer, you can go and submit your questions there.
And if you want to discuss this episode with us and a whole community of awesome, ambitious entrepreneurs, make sure you join our free Facebook group at thefemshow.com/community.